Whoa, what you doing in your free time, DJ?
Well, man, like, chill out, bro.
I just need a few, just a little bit, just a little bit. I won't use the cast straps anymore after these.
What? What is that?
Well, that's nail gun sentry guy. Yeah.
Yeah, they can.
Put him on the rocks.
Put them on the rocks where the damn druid is. Come on. Think.
What is the druid there? Well, I love how he just waves every like 5 seconds.
It was the druid. Actually, I think he's scratching his butt. I'm actually gonna sell them because you place some stuff I can place them on. So I'm gonna place them over there where you can actually do something.
That's a
right there.
Dude, this thing without focus firing actually might be pretty good because it's hitting everything. Right there. There you go, we're hitting everything now. Let's start the Benjamin strat. Try to fit him on the rock.
Yeah, mine throws a rave party every time he levels up.
How much monkey cash you got spare? Because you can... Oh, you can instantly level up your guy to level 10.
Yeah. I need my money.
Rip.
I need to avoid doing that, especially.
I love the sushi skin at level 20 looks sweet. I wouldn't say it looks sweet, it looks cool. It looks cool as other skin. Are you playing through Streamlabs?
I am hungry for vengeance.
I have hear sound off. I'm gonna turn that on. See how canch this is.
Uh-oh. That was getting a little bit
Use
too
power.
close for me.
Why do we have 1 HP? Oh yeah, it's impossible. Oh, I know what to do.
Did you really just place that right where I'm placing my stuff?
No.
Like making farms down there, and you're like, I'm just gonna play.
You got us, guys. You got us.
Alright.
I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, I legitimately don't know either.
Pursuit. I think we should upgrade our towers a little. Well.
Next level.
We got us a Chinook.
It probably won't work. Benjamin regenerates health too, and I don't think. No. No, well then if I can get my druid up, then that'll do it too.
Has some money. Ooh, wrong person. Give me that money back. You just. How'd you spend all 8K?
Alright, I got my Juggle's bounty up, that's good. I'm just generating cash right now, that's all I'm trying to do.
Wonder if I can steal that cash. No.
Sushi is power!
I'm trying that right now. Oh yeah, gets rid of that. Well, I guess we just have to actually play. Is he hungry for veg? Just me.
Handled it. Next level.
What? What, is he harvesting your money or something?
I just thought I deleted the pontoon. I didn't know that would work.
Get out the way.
should.
Handled it.
Will it?
Probably not.
Get out the way.
Oh, he does. Well, nah, I just buy them.
Handled it. Handled it.
I feel that.
Turn it up. Slice and dice. I am hungry for vengeance.
You better not.
I don't think it takes other people's. Guys, do you think he's hungry for vengeance?
No, sushi is power.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Guys, get ready.
Come on, almost there. I need like another 3,000. Oh, thank you.
This bank is making me bank. Literally. I do. Yeah, I don't take my. I don't have patience.
I don't even know what fully is.
Give me more Benjamin.
Besides, part of the reason why I had a good feeling that what you were shooting for wouldn't do anything is because at least two of us have a plus 25 mana shield thing, and there's none.
Yeah. We're already at round 7. Oh shoot, we need to start preparing for the Zomg.
I have been. What are you talking about?
Oh, I've been not. I just realized we need to also fight a bomb, a bad balloon. So what do you think the bank route is and should be, DJ? You should do center bottom. I know, but you should do center and then bottom for the two. Because it auto collects when it gets full, so you don't have to go over there and collect with added interest. Also, when you sell them late in game, you can just get rid of it. It'll it gets rid of it for more money.
I'm working on it, yeah.
I will invest in you. I'm $31,000 in debt. Help.
Alright, I do have a full top now.
No, I'm selling these goddamn things. They're just giving me debt. It isn't worth it until you get the monkeynomics.
I have 3 max snipers now.
Nice.
All 3 levels.
Can I get some money?
Right. I just spent all mine.
I could do it again if you give me lip. Don't get any back. Oh, you do? Oh, it's not that bad. Where
I
are
have I think I have like every alternative way to get money going right now.
Why don't you put down a monkey farmer and make that so much easier?
Because I just idle my mouse anyway, so it doesn't really make a difference. That and I don't have as much cash as you do.
Rip.
Like you have a lot of excess cash. I do not. As it was, I couldn't, like, I have, let's see, I have like 130 something cash at the moment.
Well, that was easy.
Nice.
I
Oh, I
got
also found
14
creepy.
presents from that. Oh no, I dipped.
Okay.
Oh, do more popples. Alright. I have a bunch of maps we can do.
BTD6. Alright. Wait, why does it say I only have one? Oh, the co-op impoppable.
Do this map.
I'm changing my hero.
Why? He's so good. Who should I play?
The spirits of the forest awaken.
DJ, look at my stream. Who should I play? Wow. You have a input on it? Anyone?
Rules are made to be broken.
I think they can kill us. No, if I use sacrificial totem, it kills us.
Please don't. Wait, okay, well,
A little too late for that. This map is gonna be something. There's no spots. Your
Oh,
dog
wait,
is
what?
gonna like it.
what is this?
Dude,
Wait,
there's
what
no
is this?
spots. You gotta really cramp for space here.
I'm taking one.
Dude,
I'm
there's
taking this one
no
over here.
spots. Where? You can't place them anywhere. Oh. It's like, ew, this is. I'm gonna get my free monkey. I can kind of see them. Wait, I can put it over here. Long range darts. Now it's doing something.
Let's go.
I say we. Ew. I say we each have our own little islands that we can own, like only we can do. You know what I mean?
I want the one with the magic monkey and the two. Well, there's one. Yeah, the two free monkeys, and then the water pool at the top right and the peppermint patty. Those are the three I want.
That's like half the islands.
Yeah, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 islands. There's 3 of us. There's no way we're gonna be able to break it up evenly.
You don't know that.
This planet is acceptable.
I don't think I'm gonna be able to get Benjamin out. Actually, you just placed that. I'm like, my brain's trying to think of where I can put it.
I'm gonna fit a tech bot on your little island down there. You don't mind?
Engage suborbital.
Out of
Which is the 4? Yeah, it's kind
it's
of
a 410 wizard.
Battle drones deployed.
This could help.
Engage suborbital.
Get rid of this energy home. I have a 3-1 NG.
Battle drones deployed.
A weak 3-2 NG right here. This is gonna be hard. We need heavy hitting like towers. I almost just died.
Battle drones deployed.
Or I could get 1,000,000 cash.
Who played the who plays the sniper on the right hand side? Who's player one? You are. Okay. I'm using the top since you use one of my islands. I'm just gonna use right here.
You can do whatever you want on the island.
Oh, I'm just placing Benjamin down. That's it. It's the only one I'm
Alright.
using on that island.
Can you get rid? Whoever, TJ, can you get rid of the monkey on that little island? I'm gonna try to get a paragon. I'm gonna start saving up for it.
Battle drones deployed.
Next level.
Is it just me or did Benjamin just say yeet?
He probably did.
Battle drones deployed. Engage suborbital.
I can probably fit another sub in that one up there. No. Can you make more water troops?
Battle drones deployed.
Excuse me.
Like an underwater trap troop would like be good.
Engage suborbital. Battle drones deployed. Upgrade in progress.
Let's see what we can do.
Oh shoot, I have a 020 monkey village and a 302 monkey village.
Engage suborbital. Battle drones deployed.
Yeah, I don't really think it's good on this map.
Orbital.
I'd probably do the preemptive strike for the mob.
Let them be.
Large target acquired. How it is done. Battle drones deployed.
Dude, these drones are amazing.
Suborbital. Battle drones deployed.
Dude, in 10A at level 20 is actually nuts.
Guys,
It's gonna be really nice for this map, especially.
Monkeys.
Nice. I always need that in every corner.
Button drones deployed. Engage servo vital.
get out of the way.
Upgrade in progress.
Blue, get out of the way.
Button drones deployed. Engage servo vital.
I'm just trying to get as much money gen as I can.
Button drones deployed.
Give you some money, Jen.
Why do I hear so many coins exchanging right now?
Guys, get ready.
Ah, that's why.
Well, guys, I'm out of money.
Button drones
I wonder why.
engage servo vital.
Is there another spot where I can fit in a tech bot? Right next to the DJ. Ambush. Here. Ambush.
Next level.
Here. Should know. Ambush on the other side. There we go.
Get out of the way.
Nice.
Engage servo vital.
What's up?
I thought you were setting up another Moab eliminator.
Handled it.
Upgrade in progress.
Yep.
Yeah, that probably is the exit. How much does the Apex mode cost?
Guys,
Oh, I don't think I'm getting that this game.
blue, get out the way. Party monkey.
I see another 2,000 now, I'll be happy. There we go.
So 30,000?
Blue, get out the way.
Shotgun turret.
Next level.
I need 8k. 5k now.
What's up?
Let's see. Right. There it is. Jesus.
Thank you. That's could be good.
That's only fair at this point. You gave me so much.
Get ready.
Alright, this thing is gonna be real nice.
You helped me get my druid monkey up, so I'm happy.
Get out the way.
How much does that druid upgrade cost?
Oh, what?
How much does that druid upgrade cost?
42,000.
Dang.
Yeah, that's what I was like. And when I asked, I was like right there below it. I was like, I just need a little bit more.
I have an idea, but I don't have. If you guys give me money, I could get overclock, and I could overclock the druid so its vines recharge faster. I need 16k plus 144k.
Get out the way.
Good start. What are you talking about?
Get ready.
Spread the wealth to keep your mouth shut.
Handled it.
Shh.
Turn it up.
Do both. Well, currently I do not need money, so
What? Oh yeah. By the way,
yes.
if you have double cash, this is what the symbol for it looks like. Is little times 2 doubloons. So for every 1 balloon, I get 2 doubloons. It costs. It's real cheap. It's only like $5 to $7. Like it's not much.
What next?
Pay to win right there.
Eh, I don't care.
Handled it.
Who does, to be honest? Balloons.
Get out the way.
I'm getting rid of this stupid ass thing.
How you like me now?
It.
Handled it.
Guess what I got?
What? Oh, the balloon ship carrier? The airship carrier.
No, I've had that for a while. No, I was referring
Oh.
to the Underlord in the bottom right. Who's currently, I think, doing nothing.
You should get that flag carrier ship since we have so we'll have extra space to put down people.
Wait, is that how that works?
Yeah, there's 2 spots where you can put down troops, like snipers and stuff.
Did not even know that.
It's on the helipads.
Handled it.
I'm only 7k away from that, so.
Surprised we're still alive at this point. Has to be.
Ooh. Oh, you bastard. You took exactly what I was gonna place. It's gonna do the same thing. That was funny.
Yeah, pontoon over here. Yeah.
Get ready. Let the beat drop.
I get some cash.
Executing hack.
Y'all got any spare cash?
You got any of them spare pixels?
What's up? Ooh, get out of the way.
A last resort in case.
Because he carries our ass?
Last resort if anything goes bad on. Alright. Perfect.
I had 15,000.
Well, do you guys have 300 septillion? Oh, never mind.
You might want to take a look at this.
What do you mean?
Oh yeah, the upgrade cost 300 septillion for a second.
I think it's because just the lag between the servers.
Okay, there we go. The ambush here. This upgrade with corrosive glue is nuts. Yeah, the glue storm with corrosive glue.
Yeah.
Greatest thing ever.
Handle there. Guys. Dang. Executing hack.
Did it just get hacked? Okay.
Cash money. Insight.
Nice. Oh, did you guys both back out? Okay.
Yeah.
I have half an hour left.
Think we could do another one? That much time?
Yeah.
Double cash modes. $20.
$20?
Yeah, $17.
To be fair, that's not even the record for how much I spent on a free-to-play game.
There's someone who's spent.
I spent over 1,000.
What game?
Do you know Trove?
I do know Trove.
That one. We don't have to do Impoppable anymore.
Why not?
Wait.
And you get 200 cash per completion.
There we go.
We can do it on possibly one of the hardest maps.
Let's go.
Churchill's pretty good. I wouldn't use Striker Jones. Okay. He's so bad. Only thing good is that he can get rid of lead balloons, and that lasts like 2 rounds because you get stuff that prevents it so fast.
What? You?
Did I take
No.
your spot?
Yes, you did.
The spirits of the
Yes.
Esd awaken.
I was getting it just right, about to place it. I was like, fuck.
Oh, they do not go that way. Wait.
I think they eventually do.
What the heck? Wait, what's the point of that? No, it's because I activated a reverse motor.
Let's go. It only is for 20 seconds, though.
Well, that's shit.
Stop them.
Okay.
I love the smell of bubble wrap in the morning.
Do you?
At the ready.
But in the morning?
Hey,
Starting it. Oh, what we're doing? Catch drops? Well, I did 10. God, that girl was annoying.
I hate that the track extension costs another.
$250.
It goes up. Yeah, it goes up every single time you do it.
Doesn't go up by like a tiny amount, it goes up by quite a bit.
Yeah, it's a reverse motor. It's 250 from here now, and then the track extension's 400 now.
With every round it goes up, maybe. No.
No, it's every use. That's how it is for now. And then throw one of these down here. I'm banana man. Banana, yeah, I'm banana man.
I liked your song.
Banana. I'm virgin now. I'm
Your
not.
bank will gain so much money now. I think I need to add a. I think I need to do a few things. There's Thrive.
I'm banana man. Yeah, I'm banana man. Banana, yeah, I'm banana man.
Alright, your money should be boosted by about 1,000% now. If it stacks, I have no clue.
I don't think it does.
It's not looking like that.
Why do we slow it down?
I'm just slowing down the balloons, not the actual like game.
I do note we have like no camo protection.
You're attacked at the end.
Yeah, I like throwing text at the end of the level. Worst case scenario, something protects it.
That's so stupid that we can't put it at the edge, like on the tables, I mean.
Let me make sure I actually work at 7:30 today and not 7 for some reason. That's the reason why I have to...
Leave.
Yeah, that's the reason why I have to be like, I have to get up by this point. Because... hey, at least I know. Miles in my high would want 500 more just to be that man. Yeah, 7:30 to 4. Hi, Kat. How you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Oh, you got silk? Is that what I saw? I was right. You know where to grab silk?
No, I don't know anything.
Hello. You did get the Sentry Champion.
Alright, give me tits on here. Oh, you son of a... I didn't check that first. Okay. I didn't realize. I thought it had been a couple hours since I claimed anything. My bad. 500 miles on the highway, but 500 more just to be the man. Walks up, bangs in myself, fall down at your door. How's your day been, Kayla?
Oh, it's been pretty not a great start.
But will it be
Hey,
a great end? That's the question.
Can you buy perma spikes on that thing? That tack shooter?
Say what?
Can you buy perma spikes on that tack shooter?
I'm about 8K short.
Also, hello, that tiny guy. I think this is the first time I've...
It is, yeah. Hello.
We have balloons coming from a new area. Balloons.
Wait,
Yellow.
that's a thing?
Yeah, and the big, the blue one in the middle.
I think I have the incinerator there. Oh yeah, that should deal with it.
My druid also seems to be taking care of him. Uh-oh. Plus your giant aerial assault is also taking care of it too.
Let's set that to strong real quick. Oh, I guess I
Lesser
know.
helicopter? Really?
Am I wrong?
Alright, now I got the perma spike.
That's the right route. No.
I was in trouble now. The daily double now. I'm on for 100. When my head started to spin, like giving up your card away. Now tell me what I didn't win. Yeah. Stop that, you're starting to worry me.
Stop what? What? Where? When?
Keep like disconnecting.
Hey, can you go to your spike factory and turn the normal to close?
You know, like my spike factory?
Yeah, go to the... Turn it to close, not normal.
I mean, I prefer it throwing them everywhere, personally. Hello, Candy.
Hi.
Candy!
What? No. I have not.
I'll be right back.
Hey, Candy, do wish list in the Mutabot for me real quick.
Hold on a second. Need to update. Games. What was it?
Wish list.
Oh, thanks, man.
Type in Y. There you go.
Thanks, man.
Wait, did my perma-spikes move? I thought perma-spikes aren't supposed to disappear.
He can't.
Hmm.
Oh. Also, by the way, saying hi.
Oh,
It's been a minute.
Kayla,
Hmm.
I found your favorite.
My favorite what?
Watch the stream. Any of the three of us will do fine. Well, the two of them. Do you see it?
See what?
The squid.
Nice.
Wait, can I place more of them? No, just places one. Okay. Squid, squiddy.
Oh, I'll be back.
Oh, hey, we're not dead yet.
Oh, did you stop paying attention or something? I'm like 4,000 away from getting Madrid again.
You are none.
I have my perma-strike set to smart now. He's just wasting money at this point.
I have so many of it. I have so much of it. What's the difference?
Rock your body right.
I just saw on DD's screen me crash. Me get unresponsive right there. Not stopping till I hit 1 million. Who wants money?
I mean, both of us.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a number 1 through 10. Whoever's closest wins.
7.
I'm sorry. You have lost, CJ. I thought of 7.
Oh, those zones. Can I throw Anyways, in here.
We start rebuilding my wealth.
Oh, there it is.
I wonder if I can give DJ $1 million before the game ends. Give a few monkeys.
You know what?
Those are scary close. I'm so glad we have that all in close, those like things there. That just it makes us, it gives like a sense of security. You know what I mean? Having those hundreds of thousands of spikes there.
Are you, Pug, are you gonna use the money I gave you? Come on, man. You didn't even notice!
Do you need more money?
I'll take more. I gave all mine to Pug, that way I could try and get achievements.
It's another $1 million. Yay! I had 1,152 powers
Try to get to
used.
2.
Wait, free play? Alright.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Ooh, I wonder
As
who
well.
captured
Wait,
his wealth.
make sure you give your money to somebody.
He already connected. I think it gives it to one of you. Oh yeah, you definitely have his money.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I can't do that.
I mean, I see a sell option on your items.
Oh yeah, so you have him.
Yeah. Let's go.
Wow. I give all the
Oh,
money and I
good.
get screwed. Don't get anything.
Let's be fair. I'm not sure you particularly care either.
Oh no. Imagine playing the game I bought you. Couldn't be me. Couldn't be me.
Oh, there
Oh,
we
we died? Unrailed, dumbass.
go. Alright. There we go.
We're just stupid.
I belong in West Virginia.
exactly how we tick. I'm no different, except I keep a rubber band on my wrist, and every time I walk past the Ryobi wall, I snap it. Then I start salivating. I don't know why that happens, but it gets me distracted long enough to make it past the wall without buying anything. But anyway, one time walking past the wall, I noticed that they had a soldering iron that took the 1 Plus battery, but it was the lower end, the like $40, $45 one. And I took a look at it, and it was still a little plain for my tastes. It does have a little more going on than the Milwaukee. It's got a stand, which is pretty much essential for soldering. I don't know how any of these other designs are supposed to work without one. And the iron is actually attached to the base with a cord, which means you're not going to have to haul the battery up with you to wherever you're soldering. There's pluses and minuses to that, but being that I just want to work on a surface, but one that's not my main workbench, one that's not necessarily next to a power outlet, this isn't actually a problem for me, but it still just looks a little basic, and I don't think it actually has temperature control. I was looking at the box at the store, and it says that it goes up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not how you want the specs on an iron to work. You don't want to be told that it might get to this very high temperature. You want to get told that it will definitely get to this specific temperature. Temperature control is essential for soldering irons. You don't ever want to buy one that doesn't have it. All those irons hanging on cards at the Home Depot, the Weller that just says 25 watt, 30 watt, 40 watt, and it's just got a 110 volt plug hanging off of it and nothing else, worthless. There is no legitimate use for them. They are complete trash. They're made like trash. You can tell just looking at them. They got a cheap plastic body, stamped sheet metal for everything north of the equator. The tip is just a hunk of metal that's been shoved in there and then bolted in place with a set screw. As soon as you use that thing for the first time, that tip just gets tilted right over, so it's never straight, feels like crap in your hand, and it's got no temperature control. So it's just constantly wavering all over the place. It's going to overheat your joints, which is great if it's after business hours, but not when you're trying to get something done. They're not worth it. Spend just a couple bucks more. If you solder, but you've never used a temperature controlled station, drop what you're doing, buy one, any price, any brand, doesn't matter. Anything is better than one of those things that just plugs in the wall. Awful. But I digress. The cheap Ryobi certainly looks a little better than those things and probably has some form of temperature control, but I'm looking for something that's a little more specific. Honestly, let's be real, I just want my Weller station, but, with a battery on the back. Now, that's a completely unreasonable thing to want. Why would anyone make that? How many people are actually going to buy that? Well, I'll buy that. Everything that I want, I set all of these criteria, and I won't buy anything that won't meet them. And so, when I find the one thing in a market that looks like it meets all those criteria, I always buy it. And it either ends up being perfect or it ends up being absolute garbage that I would have known was garbage if I'd paid any attention to it beyond the fact that it looked like it actually met the criteria like this guy does here. This thing seems for all the world to be what I was looking for. It's an actual soldering station, not just an iron. So it's got a base with a stand and a temperature control. It's got a place to put your sponge. The iron is attached with a cable instead of directly to the battery. On the back here, it does say that temperature control allows you to set and maintain desired temperature. So that kind of implies they're using a feedback loop. And that was about as far as I got before I just went ahead and bought it, pretty much sight unseen. Had I paid a little more attention to the box, I might have been a little less surprised by some things I discovered when I took it out. For instance, it says 45 watt hybrid soldering station. I looked at that and thought, what the heck does hybrid mean? Well, I don't care. I'm buying it anyway. And so I did, and so it's here. Now, I don't do much in the way of reviewing products you can actually buy from a store right now, rather than things that they stopped selling 25 years ago, largely because there's lots of other people doing it, and also because I don't want to look like a shill. Ryobi is exactly the kind of company that would pay people to shill. Fortunately, nobody but me cares about that, so we'll just press on. There's not a whole lot in the box. You got the base, you got the iron, and you have a stand for the iron. Now this clips on to the side, like, yeah. When you swing it in, it's got a little retention nub in there, and it's not very positive. You can just pop it right back out. And of course, your first thought is, well, if I have an iron in there, if I hit it, isn't it going to pop out? And yeah, it absolutely is. But the alternative would be a lot worse, because the reason this swings off like this is so you can pack it up, so you can throw it in your tool bag. And if this guy didn't come off, believe me, it would be miserable. If you've ever tried to transport one of these that's attached to like a sponge holder, so you got a little sort of a gator jaw like this, it just gets tangled up with everything in your bag. It's a disaster. Other than that, it's got this little Ziploc. It's got a little bit of starter solder just to get you started, and it's got the sponge. If you've never seen a soldering sponge before, by the way, they're sold dehydrated and flattened like this. You soak them in water and they thicken right up to a 1/2 inch. And then you've got one tip in here. It's not a replacement tip. It's different from the one that comes in the iron. This one is a great big massive screwdriver tip, one of the biggest soldering tips I've ever seen. And that actually makes a lot of sense because the one in the iron is a fairly fine precision point, and this really represents the two kinds of work you're likely to do with a tool of convenience like this. You're either going to go touch up one or two reasonable little joints on like a printed circuit board somewhere, or you're going to attempt some ridiculous joint in a washing machine or like an automotive wiring harness that you really shouldn't be trying to mess with at all, but you're impatient, you're trying to save yourself from a 6-hour or a 3-day wait, and you're just going to go for it anyway. So these really fit the bill. And that's pretty much it. That's everything comes in the box. It's everything you'd want to come in the box. Now, as I get into looking at the outsides of it, you may start to notice what it is that made me want to make a video about this, but I'll get to it when I get to it. Here's the rest of the externals first. So you've got your power button here that's also your temperature control knob. I sort of like the fact that this is a potentiometer rather than an infinitely rotating rotary encoder that you would have to like compare to some little bar graph here or something like that to figure out what temperature you're supposed to be at. On the flip side, it's possible that it's connected to some sort of extremely dumb circuit inside. What you want from an iron is active feedback. You want there to be a thermocouple up inside here where it's taking a measurement of the absolute temperature of the iron tip. It's feeding it back to a microcontroller and it's comparing it to the exact position you chose on this knob to make sure that it's within a few degrees of that. What this could be doing instead is feeding some sort of very simple analog voltage controller where instead of checking to see if the temperature here is the temperature you selected, this is just picking a proportional voltage, and then it just pumps that voltage into this thing continuously and hopes that you land somewhere around where you want to be. But in this day and age, doing this correctly is so cheap that I imagine they probably do have a sensor up here, especially because there's a ton of wires in this cable, which we'll get to later. And it definitely has some kind of smarts in there because it actually has more intelligence than my Weller station. Let's put a battery in here. So when you turn this thing on, the LED goes solid to tell you that it's heating up. Then when it reaches temperature, it goes green. But when you turn it off, it starts blinking red to let you know that it's cooling down so that you don't turn this thing off, turn around, forget what you're doing, think it's been longer than it has, or forget you had the iron on. You pick the thing up, throw it in your tool bag, and it melts a hole right through the side. Or you go to pick it up, you burn yourself on the iron. Neither of those are great. So this is a fantastic feature, and it suggests that they do in fact have a thermal sensor up here. Otherwise, how would they know when the tip is safe to touch? There's storage here for a bunch of tips, and of course, they're not kind enough to like make a deal with Weller or something to use standard ones, so it takes yet another proprietary kind of tip. You can only get them from Home Depot online. You got to order them. It's $20 for a 2-pack. That's the exact same ones you get with this, the huge screwdriver tip and the precision tip. You got the sponge holder here, which didn't look very well retained at first. It looks like it would just fall out if you threw this in your tool bag, but it's actually press fit in there pretty tight. You got to really work it out of there, so not too worried about that. Then on the back, you of course have the battery mount, but there's something back here that I would have known about if I had actually read the box. It also takes 110 volts. That's what hybrid meant on the box. It'll run either off of the OnePlus battery or it'll run off of an extension cord. You can just get any old extension cord and jam it in there. So it's like hooking up a weed eater. And that actually appeals to me specifically because I'm more often in situations where I could drag an extension cord over and set this thing on a cardboard box than situations where I could drag my Weller over and actually find space to set up both the station and the stand and get the thing hooked up. So that's pretty much the outside of it, right? Like you got the iron and you got the station, and the controls are very simple and it takes the two types of power. Okay, that's cool, and that's it, right? But as soon as you get this thing out of the box, there are two things you notice about it. First is that the chassis here is incredibly dense. It's really, really dense plastic. You see these wings back here? They look like they could be kind of a liability. Like maybe you could drop this thing and break those off or something. They are impervious to any kind of flexion. They do not bend, and the whole thing just has like, it's got some weight to it, and it's just, it feels solid in the hands, which is a silly thing to say about something that's not actually a tool you're supposed to use in your hands. But still, instant feeling of high quality, right? The sort of thing that if you're Ryobi, a company that made their name by selling people tools that feel better built than they actually are, then this is how you approach it, right? But look, I'm not immune to propaganda. It works on me just as much as anybody else. You want to own something that feels like this, just to have something that's not disappointing, because everything else is so disappointing when you touch it. And the iron is no different. This thing feels better than any other soldering iron I've touched in my life. It's uncanny how nice this thing feels in the hand. And I'm not just talking about the rubber overmolding. I'm sort of divided on that stuff myself. It's the whole thing. It's got a weight to it. Again, if you're trying to fake somebody out and make a tool feel higher quality than it actually is, then you make it heavy, right? But this thing seems like the weight is coming from real actual material that serves a purpose. I'm not sure what this body is made out of. Can't see a maker's mark or anything like that. But if we move up to here, this is where it starts getting really interesting. I don't know my plastallergy too well, but this has got that look. I think it might be that PA6 nylon that AVE is always talking about that often has all the like glass fiber in it. It's got the look that I associate with that. And assuming that the little knife trick actually works, it does have the noise as well. And everything else north of the equator on here has pretty much the same thing going on. This whole region, right? It's all way overbuilt. This little metal spider here, I'm not super sure what this is made of. And I'm not sure if it's machined or cast or sintered or what, but it just looks too heavy duty for this application. Look how much meat is on that thing. There's just so much of it. On one of those cheap hang tag Weller irons, and a lot of irons really, this will just be a piece of flat stamped sheet metal with 3 holes in it. Now, it is taking the lever load from whatever you're pushing on up here, because remember that when you're soldering, like on a PCB, you're pushing the iron down into the workpiece, right? And the force from that is being transferred up through the tip, through the shaft, onto the spider here. So it is going to be taking a pretty decent load. Much if you're using it heavily, you're going to be leaning on this thing pretty hard. That's fair. But I've still never seen it built that heavily. And then as we proceed up here, we've got the nut for the barrel here. On my Weller at home, this part looks like it's just been stamped, and then the knurling they put on it is really lightweight, whereas this one looks like they actually spent some time on a lathe with it. It's wild. The soldering tip here is closer to one of the Weller ones than not. I actually would not be surprised to learn that there are Weller tips that would fit on here. I'm sure if I Google it, somebody will say, oh yeah, just get the WTS SP series. They'll fit just fine. But like I said, on the really cheap irons, this is just a slug that goes down inside of a tube, and then it's got a screw that holds it on. In this case, it uses the barrel nut. When you pull it off, however, it does expose the bare ceramic heating element. Now, like I said earlier, I've never seen this on an iron of any price before. The really cheap Wellers, you can't see the heating element. It's buried down inside the tube. I'm not super sure what this is about. It does look breakable. Like if I were to put this on here and then just give it a sharp whack, whatever that thing is, I'm sure I would snap it off. Maybe that's why this stuff is built so heavily, right? Because if this guy here were to give, then that ceramic tube is going to take all the force that you're putting on the tip and it would break right away. So if that is the case, then this is all actually out of necessity. But nonetheless, they could have cheaped out and just let you break it and then sold you a replacement heating element or a replacement iron or something. So while I'm not totally sure what I'm looking at here, my intuition says that this thing is built about as well as it should be, which is weird for a Ryobi tool. They don't build crap, but they build it exactly as well as they have to not look embarrassing and then move on. So hey, this shill video is going pretty good, right? I'm gonna get paid in no time. Sure looks like I brought you here to tell you this was the best thing since sliced bread and you should get to Home Depot and throw your credit card at the door as fast as you can before they run out of stock. But I actually came here to tell you that this thing is a contradiction of itself. This and this are built better than I would expect from Ryobi. And that's strange and noteworthy, but even more so, this is built worse than I would expect from Ryobi, and unacceptably so, in fact. They screwed the pooch with this cable. Those of you afflicted with the same brainworms as me have been looking at this cable the whole time, just aghast, going, what on earth is this thing doing here? It's so out of place. And for those of you who aren't sure what we're so upset about, notice that this cable is sort of forming a kind of a W, kind of a U shape, right? It's got these harsh bends here and here. And if I try to straighten it out, notice how it just sort of pushes itself up in the air here so it can try and maintain the same shape. If I pull like this, it doesn't straighten out. If I do this, it just pushes the whole bundle around. The cord connecting a soldering iron to its base station is a critical design element, and it should be made out of a rubber. Silicone or nitrile or I don't know what else. Again, not great with my plast allergy, but it should be some kind of elastomer that's highly flexible and has high temperature resistance. This is neither of those. This is PVC. If you've got a desktop PC, I promise you the cable going into your power supply looks exactly like this. Same sheen and everything because it's the same material, polyvinyl chloride. It's one of the most generic plastics in existence. It's incredibly cheap. It saved Ryobi a couple cents to use this cable, and it's utterly unacceptable. There's two reasons for that. The first one is usability. Notice that as I'm pushing this thing around, as I'm trying to use this iron, the cord is getting in the way. It's fighting me. Obviously, if I unbundled it, that would be better. But no matter where I put this thing, it's going to have this intrinsic bend in it. And every time that I throw it into my tool bag, it's going to put a new bend in it. So every time I'm using this, when I'm moving it around, it's going to be running into my wrist, pushing away from it or pushing towards it. It's got a mind of its own. It's making suggestions about how I should move the iron, and that's wrong. A rubber jacketed cable doesn't do that. It goes exactly where you put it. You push on it and it just moves. It takes whatever shape you want to give it. It's completely invisible to the user. It's wonderful stuff. But the second, much more concerning issue is the temperature rating. This iron starts out at 400 degrees Fahrenheit or 204 degrees Celsius, and it goes up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit or 482 degrees Celsius. Let's take a look at the temperature rating on this jacket. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that 80 degrees Celsius? This iron cannot run cool enough to not melt through this jacket. Someone's probably going to respond and say I'm misunderstanding what this temperature rating means, but it doesn't matter because, honest to God, the thing will just blast right through the jacket. All right, we're at temperature, the lowest temperature it'll go. And if we touch this guy on here, it just goes right through it like nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I just skimmed this over the surface of the cable and it's just mangled and mutilated. If I were to just set this iron on here, just like lay it down, like if I forgot it and just set it down on top of the cable, it would melt all the way through the jacket. It would go through the outside, then it would go through all the wires inside, which are also PVC insulated, but we'll get to that later. And it would just go right on through to China. That's obviously a severe safety issue, right? Although this probably isn't dealing with significant voltage, you probably can't get shocked on it. You still just destroyed your whole iron, melted, vaporized a whole bunch of plastic, and now this thing's ruined because this cable is permanently attached. It doesn't unplug here. On a Weller or a Heiko, you can unplug the iron, throw it away, buy a new one because it doesn't detach here, unfortunately. But you buy a new iron for, 30, 40 bucks, whatever, plug it back in, you're back in business. Here, you're going to have to replace the entire unit. Now, Ryobi doesn't want to sell you an iron assembly when that's only going to be like 15 bucks total because of the low cost of the entire thing. They want to sell you a whole new unit if anything gets damaged. It's not really worth it to them to sell you parts anyway, so they don't bother putting the connector on here. But that just makes this even worse. If this were made of silicone or nitrile, you would not be able to burn through that with the iron, so it would be moot. The only way you'd be able to damage it such that you'd have to replace the whole unit is to cut it mechanically with something. So you can see what I mean, that this thing is a peculiar contradiction in terms. It's got really well-made parts and then this bizarrely poorly made part. And of course, wherever you can see one cost-cutting measure, there's 5 you can't see. So just about as soon as I got this thing out of the box, I was ready to follow in the footsteps of many wiser men than me. Instead of turning it on, I took it apart. And of course, that was a deeply frustrating process because Ryobi doesn't want you to take it apart. What else is new? But still, there's a gradient of user hostility, and this one is built much further towards the hostile end. Naturally, it's got real deep screw holes on here because it's got to get all the way through the bottom of the clamshell to the bosses in the top. Now, there's 2 ways to do that. One is you get real long screws, so that when you screw them in, they go in like this, and then the heads are sitting down here at the bottom, and you can get at them with any old stubby screwdriver, but if that were the case, you'd see the heads right there, and you don't. They chose the cheaper option, getting the little 1-inch screws, so the head is all the way up here, and you need a screwdriver as long as you're, well, anyway, you need a long screwdriver to get in there. And of course, it can't be anything simple. They're not Phillips heads, they're Torx T25, I think. And as is often the case with newer stuff, these holes here aren't straight channels. As these holes go deeper, they taper so that at the bottom they're much narrower than they are at the top. I'm not sure if this is because of like mold draft angle or if they're just being assholes, but the result is that you need a pretty slim screwdriver to get down to the things, and who has a non-hex bit Torx driver sitting around? All I had, of course, was just those little multi-bit kits. My T25 didn't even begin to reach down in there before it bottomed out on the sides of the hole. So I had to go to the hardware store and buy a new one that was long enough to get down in there. And of course, all they had was this very long impact bit, and the hex continued up till right under the Torx head. So I would stick it down in there, and it would make it part of the way and then bottom out anyway. So I had to take this thing to the bench grinder to make it fit, and my bench grinder skills haven't been tested in some years. Press F to mourn. This sort of thing always pisses me off. They could have done better. I'm not convinced that they did it on purpose, but I'm also not convinced that they didn't do it out of at least a little bit of spite. Now, if you ever take one of these apart, you might think at this point that you haven't gotten all the screws out because it doesn't want to come apart, but it's actually just stuck together real good because of the quality of the clamshell interface. It goes together real nice, so you have to sort of crack it to get it to pop apart. Now, I got to pause. One of the big reasons I wanted to get in here was to check out the 110 volt input circuitry, because that's where you're going to find a huge gradient of quality. They could make it well, they could make it crappy, they could make it unreasonably crappy, and that's something that can go out pretty easily if they did a bad job with it and make the thing, well, in this case, only half as useful since you've still got the battery to fall back on. I mean, in my case, the 110 volt was not what I was going for in the first place, so that's the backup to me. But I still want to know if Ryobi cheaped out on it. So if you're ready, we'll take a look at the 110 volt input circuitry. Well, I wonder which part's the power supply. Your eyes are not deceiving you. That is straight up an external power brick, like what would run your laptop, that they've just entombed inside this chassis. They've made a little accommodation for this specific plastic box. Got little bosses on the side to lock it right in place. Got a little cable routing channel here for this guy to come out here. This whole thing is built around this specific power supply that they got from, let's see, Dongwon Yinli Electronics Co. Limited. And it's not even a Meanwell. Now, before we get too upset here, we should review the nomenclature on the back, because they did not actually just buy these off the shelf as laptop power supplies or whatever. This didn't come with like a DC barrel jack on it, because that is a diagram showing you which of the bare wires is which polarity. So this thing came with bare wires on it. That probably means that it was meant to be used industrially, purchased, and then built into something that a consumer would buy. But they were probably imagining the company would either put their own DC connector on there, or that they would have this cable running in the back side of this thing, and then this guy would be hanging out the back of it permanently attached. I doubt that they pictured when they developed this product that it would end up inside a plastic clamshell for the rest of its life. Now, of course, this is part of a long tradition of using finished power supplies inside of things instead of building your own or using a bare component, because this guy has been tested, certified, finished. This is something that could exist outside of this unit, sold as a standalone product, which means if they put it inside this unit, they're definitely good to go, right? Back in the 80s and 90s, even companies like Sega and Nintendo would buy pre-built RF modulators from some other company. There's not that many components in them, but they have to get certified as a complete unit. So if they buy the finished RF modulator and put it in their game console and then just plug their composite video into it and have the antenna cable come right out the back, then they don't need to go through the process of designing the thing, but they also don't have to go through the process of getting it certified. So it saves a lot of time, money, and complexity in the development process for the product, but it's still usually not quite this egregious. What I would have expected in this kind of application is an open frame power supply, one that it looks pretty much just like this PCB here. It's basically about this size usually, and they've got a bunch of capacitors and transformers and stuff on there, but it's a finished product purchased from another company as a complete certified unit. So it just has 2 or 3 pins on this side for AC input, and then it's got 2 pins coming out this side for DC output. As a manufacturer, you don't know anything about how this works. You don't care. You buy it. You treat it as a complete black box. But Ryobi has taken a much more literal approach to black box and actually bought a black box to put inside. And that goes so far that they actually kept the plug. Look at that. Isn't that something? That's the original 110 volt plug that came molded onto the cable that was staked into the box here from the manufacturer. All they did was wobble it up underneath and then build this little strap to hold it inside the chassis, and they only expose the face of it, so just the pins are sticking out. It's not even laziness. It's like working really hard to keep yourself from having to work hard. And it is kind of interesting because it says it's intended to be correctly oriented in a vertical or floor mount position. If the manual for the product that's being included in doesn't include that verbiage, then I wonder if this is actually violating some kind of certification document. That's probably not binding in any way, but you know what I mean. It's a weird thing to do. You know, I'll bet if we pop this out, there's probably, yep, look at that. There's a power light on there. The whole time that you're using this thing, you don't realize that there's actually a power light right under here shining away that no one will ever see. That is creepy. It's like a skeleton sealed up in your walls. By the way, when you get the clamshell apart for the first time, you'll feel the distinctive sensation of a wire joining the top and bottom together. This conveniently just pops out right there. There's a couple little tabs that retain this bail. But this bail is interesting. I didn't actually notice it until I took this thing apart. Again, because I hadn't actually read the verbiage on the box. The bail protrudes over here, and it looks like some sort of, I don't know, belt loop. Something like that. It's not labeled. It's not clear what it's for, but it is actually wired up to something. And I traced this, and it turns out that it goes into the cable that goes down to the iron. And I realized that's the Esd Strap. This bail is here on the outside, so you can clip to it and then clip that into your anti-static ground system. And then it passes all the way through to the iron so that the iron does not potentially static shock the devices you're working on. That's pretty clever. ESD safety is not unusual in soldering stations, but it's usually accomplished by just using the ground pin on the wall plug, but of course this one doesn't have one, so it makes sense that they would provide this. Getting into the guts of it is getting out of my wheelhouse a little bit. Not an EE, but I can comment on the build quality, which here is where we start to see a little more cost cutting, or at least not doing it like you maybe should do it. Of course, wouldn't you know it, these screws here are not the same size as the screws holding the clamshell together, so I had to go get myself some drivers. Now, as soon as you get these screws out, this guy is ostensibly loose, but it won't go anywhere. I'm tugging on it pretty good because all the wires going to it are cut super short. Actually, no, I think this guy here is the offending party. Okay, with the battery clip wires freed up, this is a little easier, but it's still just really stuck in place. So if you ever need to work on this thing, if you want to actually try and repair something, you're going to be desoldering a lot of wires. They use a couple connectors here and here, but a lot of this stuff is just flying leads soldered right down to the board. So just the act of pulling this out to inspect it, you could snap a solder joint and make the situation worse. This thing looks pretty straightforward. There's a mess of basic transistors on there. They got a microcontroller up here, presumably, that's doing most of the actual work. There's a potentiometer here for presumably calibrating it that's been siliconed in place so you can't change it. And then otherwise, the only thing that stands out are these two big fat diodes here. I wasn't quite sure why those diodes were there at first, but after I stared at it for a bit, I realized something. The two power inputs are mechanically interlocked. If you put a battery in here, it prevents you from plugging in an AC cable. And if you plug in an AC cable, you won't be able to seat the battery. And so I was thinking it seemed odd to have the diodes because they're not rectifying anything. This guy's doing all that. So all this gets is DC. And they didn't really need to prevent these two from communicating because they can't both be plugged in at the same time. So you don't have to worry about like backfeed. But then I realized that it's the input of this that's isolated when you have a battery plugged in. The output is still hooked up. So the battery plugged in would be feeding back into the output circuitry here. This would act as a potentially a parasitic load, or it could even get messed up by the power back feeding into it. So they probably wanted to prevent that. And then someone on my Discord pointed out that when this guy is plugged in, they don't want the power going back out to the battery terminals where you could drop a quarter in there or something, short amount, and start a fire, because there's 3 amps coming out of this thing. And that's a good point too. The quality of the workmanship on these boards is not hot. They didn't bother cleaning off any of their flux, so these boards are just filthy. And there's a bunch of handwork on them, so I can imagine that sometimes these things don't get done quite right. They might leave a solder bridge in place. So if you were in here trying to fix one of these that was DOA or died right after you got it, that might be something you'd want to look for. Of course, truth be told, I don't recommend you get in here anyway, because all these wires really want to go exactly where they want to go. Everything has a special place that it's got to be slotted into. Notice in these baffles in here that each one has these little slots cut in for the wires to route through. If you get these guys out of the slot like that, and then you set this power supply in here and try to close up the clamshell, when you run the screws down, you will cut every one of those wires right in half and ruin the thing. Because there isn't a millimeter of extra wire in here. You're going to have to splice extensions onto every one of those little wires in order to get everything hooked back up. It's not worth it. You just have to buy a new machine. But while we're in here, I'll point out that this stuff is also insulated with PVC, and it shouldn't be. This really wants to be Teflon, especially if it's going through a PVC outer jacket, because that's also resistant to heat, and it would make up some for the PVC outer jacket, but it's also just a better insulation for wire that's doing what it's doing. With that said, there are a couple remaining things in here that are better built than they really have to be. For instance, this guy here, where the soldering iron cable comes into the chassis, I thought at first that it wasn't strain relieved. When I looked at it on the outside, I was really worried because it just goes straight inside. There's no boot out here, but it actually has this labyrinthine strain relief in here that seems like it would work pretty well. You're not going to break any solder joints inside by tugging on that thing. That said, if you look closely here, you can see there's these little sort of T-shaped impressions in the cable jacket. And that's because on the mating half, this is what holds that cable indexed into the slot. It's these really thin partitions, really sharp corners on them. These are kind of eaten into the cable, and I think there's a few scenarios where if you even had like enough vibration on this cable, you might actually be able to get those to slowly eat their way through the jacket. So I wish they'd made these thicker, like these baffles up here. Not really sure why they couldn't have done that. But having said all that, I am now compelled again to comment on just how rigid this chassis is. It is absolutely nuclear. It's made out of polycarbonate mixed with ABS, which I seem to recall is a pretty nice combination. It certainly feels that way. I think it's why it's got that sort of feeling of solidity to it, because the polycarbonate adds that sort of rigidity that you just don't feel in plain ABS. And then baffles, all these internal partitions just give this thing so much rigidity. These bosses are incredibly thick. Everything in here, every part of the clamshell is just built like a fallout shelter. It is absurd how much plastic they put into this, and I'm not really sure why. Are they compensating for something? Because this seems unnecessary. I'm not sure why they did this. And in fact, after I marveled at the density for long enough, it got me to thinking about the heat situation. I don't work in industry or anything, but I've seen a lot of plastic in my time, and this is a really nice casting. It's got a lot of fine details, including this lip along here that interfaces with the one up here. It fits together so well that you think at first that there might be like an O-ring in there. And even without that O-ring, I'm thinking to myself that you can't get much heat out of this thing. This plastic is so heavy and the gaps are so small that any heat generated in here is gonna just get cooped up in there for quite some time. It's gonna take a long time for it to diffuse through these thick plastic panels, and there are no gaps for it to escape from. The only exception is right up here in the bottom, you got these tiny cooling slots at the very bottom of the thing, but you really want cooling slots to be at the top for obvious reasons. Any heat coming off these diodes, for instance, I don't know if it's going to make its way over there. It seems like you could get a lot of hot air built up inside this thing that wouldn't go anywhere. And that kind of feels like the final contradiction here. This thing is just 50-50. Beautifully built chassis, beautifully built iron, seems like a good feature set, but then weird power supply choice, really kind of chintzy construction quality, absolutely skimped on the wiring, didn't use any connectors they didn't absolutely have to, kind of iffy choices for cable routing, and not so ideal cooling. So the whole thing is just all over the place. In the end, would I recommend you buy it? I have absolutely no idea. I've never used it. Other than using this thing to melt its own cable, I haven't actually used it to heat up a joint yet. That's for after business hours. I just wanted to talk about how it was built because it really, really threw me for a loop. I couldn't believe that power supply was in there like that. That's nuts. I've seen this maybe once before, and it was in a much cheaper, crappier piece of